The story about the best female sniper in history and the most feared in the Second World War. So the American media dubbed her as a Lady of the Death. This sniper is Lyudmila Pavlichenko, who was born on July 12, 1916 in Ukraine. The film begins in 1937 at a college. A teenager named Lyudmila has been accepted as a student of the history faculty at Kiev State University, Ukraine, with the best grades. The next day Lyudmila and her friends went to an vacation venue, but they were confused about where to go, because there was no decision. They also tossed a coin, and in the end the choice to go to the shooting range was the winner. Seeing when each of her male friends were given a bullet, suddenly Lyudmila asked the instructor for permission to let her shoot. Then the instructor gave them a gun and 5 bullets. The instructor then taught how to shoot correctly. Lyudmila tried to shoot as best as his instructor had taught her. After shooting, they were all asked to name their respective families. The instructor then checked the target board for shots. Unexpectedly, Lyudmila got the highest point, even though she was underestimated by her male friend. But one of his friends protested. He asked the instructor to go back to check the results of their shots, but the instructor let them see the results for themselves if they didn't believe it. While in college, Lyudmila was suddenly called by the chancellor. She was told to pack all his equipment into a bag. It turned out that there was an officer reading Lyudmila's bio. He said that Lyudmila was very talented in shooting. The officer got a report from the instructor who had taught Lyudmila. Because of this, Lyudmila was given the opportunity to attend sniper training for 6 months, and after that Lyudmila was able to return to college again. Lyudmila finally decided to accept the offer before leaving Lyudmila to say goodbye to mom and dad. In training, Lyudmila took a very hard sniper education. The trainer treated male and female participants same. They were taught to be reliable snipers, but the sniper training, which was planned for only 6 months, could not be completed because on June 19, 1941, the Nazi troops Germany had invaded the Soviet Union through Operation Barbarossa. The training period is also accelerated. Participants who pass the exam will be sent to the battlefield, while Lyudmila is sent to be a sniper on the front line to defend the Odessa city. Commander Makarov directs Lyudmila to target the enemy commander as the main target. He also said that enemy tank weapons can be destroyed by shooting the driver's glass 3 times and the shot will hit the fuel tank. And suddenly the Nazi troops attacked by air with bombers. In a precarious situation, Lyudmila tried to go down the trench to look for weapons that could be used. After finding the weapons of her comrades who died in battle, Lyudmila ventured to aim at the window of the tank that was attacking them. With the help of Makarov, Lyudmila finally managed to destroy the German tank. When Lyudmila wanted to shoot a Nazi commander but suddenly she delayed shooting, she was doubtful because she had never shot a human in her life. But when Lyudmila's face was splattered with blood from her comrade who was shot, she also decided to shoot the commander of the enemy troops. Lyudmila's shot finally made the German troops retreat. Captain Makarov then gave Lyudmila vodka to reduce the mental burden experienced by Lyudmila. It turned out that Lyudmila's success in shooting enemy tanks was greatly appreciated by the commander of the troops, namely General Petrov, and he gave Lyudmila an award in the form of a semi-automatic rifle. In front of Lyudmila's troops she vowed not to give the enemy any mercy, and with her rifle she would kill hundreds of German soldiers. Makarov teaches Lyudmila to disassemble her rifle so that Lyudmila can identify the weapon she has. That night Makarov told about himself that during the war in Finland, he had killed 3 enemies with 1 shot. Hearing that story made Lyudmila admire Makarov even more. The next day on the battlefield, Makarov did not find Lyudmila in her position. Then his partner reported that Lyudmila was approaching enemy troops. Apparently Lyudmila tried to shoot several enemy soldiers with 1 shot. Lyudmila was told to return to her position because it was very dangerous. Makarov then threatened to take Lyudmila to a military court so that Lyudmila would not repeat her actions. In the evening a messenger soldier came to see Makarov. The soldier brought orders to serve in a new location. Lyudmila tries to approach Makarov, but rejected. Makarov is committed to himself. He will not fall in love with a woman in a war situation. The next day Lyudmila is still annoyed with Makarov for rejecting her love. Makarov finally explains the reason. Why can't he accept Lyudmila's love? Makarov did not want to accept the harsh reality. His beloved died in the war. Hearing that Lyudmila told Makarov, he had to be sure that no one could kill them both. But suddenly a big explosion made Makarov crash, and luckily he was fine while Lyudmila was seriously injured. Then she was taken to a tent to get help. Lyudmila was treated by a Dr. Boris who almost became her fiancé. Makarov tried to calm Lyudmila down by lying beside her. Seeing that made Boris very jealous because Boris still loves Lyudmila. Previously, Lyudmila was betrothed to Boris, but Lyudmila refused the engagement because she had to attend sniper training. Sevastopol evacuation incident at a port located. The area was being attacked by the German army. The Red Army set out with their war fleet, but on the way their ships were bombarded by enemy troops from the air. Arriving in Sevastopol, Lyudmila went to General Evan and asked the general to sign her health report so that she would be allowed to join the war. General Evan said that only doctors are authorized to give permission. Lyudmila was forced to go to Boris to sign her health report, but Boris didn't allow it because Lyudmila's condition had not yet recovered. Lyudmila's attention was suddenly diverted after hearing that the frontline troops had returned from the battle. Lyudmila tries to find Makarov until someone calls her name. It turns out that she is the one who was willed by Makarov to give his weapon to Lyudmila. Knowing that Captain Makarov had died, made Lyudmila so sad that her hands trembled when she touched Makarov's rifle. Lyudmila returned to face Boris with an emotional face. After hearing Makarov's death, Boris signed Lyudmila's health report. In this mission Lyudmila was introduced to Captain Leonid Kitsenko. Captain Leonid was appointed to replace Makarov to lead the troops. The next day Lyudmila paired up with Leonid aiming at the enemy soldiers, but this time Lyudmila's treatment of her enemy was very different. Lyudmila shot legs and arms so that the enemy was tortured. Seeing that, Leonid immediately shot the soldier dead. Lyudmila looked annoyed with Leonid. Lyudmila wants them to be tormented before they die. Hearing Lyudmila's words, Leonid then advised her. Leonid says that war is not only about death. There is still life they have to live for those who are still alive, and this life is not only for revenge. That night they both got a dangerous mission to face the enemy sniper. Lyudmila was always relied on in every mission, because she was able to control hilly terrain as well as in snowy areas. With her sniper fire she killed enemy troops without mercy, so that the Nazi troops were finally repulsed from the shoebox. Soviet troops held a party for their success. Lyudmila introduced Boris to Leonid and left them alone. Then Boris told Leonid about his relationship with Lyudmila before joining the war, and to this day he still loves Lyudmila. In party Lyudmila was having an argument with a male soldier. Leonid immediately came and taught that man. Finally the quarrel could be resolved by their commander. Leonid spontaneously took Lyudmila and kissed her. Now they are both dating and always together. On the sidelines of carrying out their mission interspersed with jokes and silly actions. One day the two of them were walking in an area. Leonid accidentally stepped on something and it turned out that the area was a minefield. They immediately ran as fast as possible to avoid the explosion of the mine, because the explosion of the mine was so fast. Lyudmila piled up and Leonid took the initiative to protect Lyudmila from the effects of the explosion, so Leonid's back was crushed by the explosion of the mine. Lyudmila tried to carry Leonid's dying body. Once near the troops, she immediately asked for help and help came. Lyudmila again felt the harsh reality for the second time that she had to lose the person she loved. After realizing that Lyudmila saw Boris who took care of her, Boris admitted that he regretted having given Lyudmila permission to join the war. While they were being treated, they were approached by an officer who brought a warrant for Lyudmila to stay on duty because the Germans thought she was dead. Like it or not, Ludmilla had to jump back into the battlefield with a condition that had not yet recovered. He's back in his military uniform and will face the best German sniper Otto von Singer. From the intelligence report, enemy snipers were conducting reconnaissance in the area of the square. Hearing that, Ludmilla immediately went there. For more than 24 hours Ludmilla camouflaged among the rocks, but while doing reconnaissance, she felt something uncomfortable in her back. She realized that the wound had not healed and was bleeding again. Feeling unable to stand in her hiding place anymore, Ludmilla came out of hiding after seeing the enemy sniper. Seeing Ludmilla's appearance, the enemy sniper knew of her whereabouts. They both then shot, and it turned out that the enemy's shot only hit Ludmilla's chest, while the enemy sniper had died. Boris' headquarters facing General Evan, he begged to immediately evacuate Ludmilla because she had been injured 4 times in the line of duty. At first Evan refused the request because Ludmilla was very important to her troops. Ludmilla was one of the main forces that had killed hundreds of German soldiers. Hearing that, Boris raised that Evan had deliberately sacrificed Ludmilla, and finally Evan allowed Boris to evacuate Ludmilla. But when they arrived at the pier, the surge in refugees made passengers crammed into the ship. Boris invites Ludmilla to choose another alternative route. They will take a boat to the refugee camp. But in reality, Boris decided to stay in Sevastopol, saying he would catch up with the next boat. And finally the city of Sevastopol, which was defended for 250 days, finally fell also in the hands of Hitler's troops. It is not known for sure how the fate of Boris and 80,000 inhabitants of the city of Sevastopol and the Red Army have been caught or sentenced to death. But for sure, Boris saved Ludmilla's life. After a year later, at a meeting, the First Lady in America Eleanor asked each of the student soldiers of the Soviet Union for their achievements. At first, Eleanor was simply amazed as if she met a soldier who had general abilities, but the First Lady was very impressed when she faced a woman named Ludmilla Pavlyuchenko. Ludmilla said she was a sniper who had killed 309 Nazi soldiers. Hearing that made everyone turn to her. They swarmed with questions while she was running errands. And Ludmilla was summoned at a press conference. Ludmilla said she was now 25 years old and had killed 309 soldiers. Don't you guys feel that you've been hiding behind my back for too long? Finally Ludmilla was assigned to be an instructor in sniper education. After the war she continued her studies and was awarded the title of hero. After 17 years later in 1957, Eleanor finally met Ludmilla with her son. Ludmilla wore the Star Badge of Honor given by the Unisoviet, and it was all thanks to her services.